Very good evening and welcome to Premier League Live for our second night of 3 nights of Premier League midweek action here on LFS. And last night was certainly a treat as we watched Nottingham Forest and Liverpool, two of the top three, facing off last night at the City Ground. Finished 1-1 there, and Arsenal, who were second place going into last night, they are in third this evening, and they have the chance to react to that droppage of points from both Nottingham Forest and Liverpool in their draw last night. Second place is up for grabs for Arsenal tonight, and closing the gap on Liverpool to 4 points if they can win. For Spurs, well, it's a tough task for them. They're in the bottom half of the table. They can jump above West Ham United with a victory this evening if they can claim all 3 points here at the Emirates, something they haven't done in quite a number of years. It's Arsenal that have the spoils in recent history between these two, having failed to lose any of their last 5 meetings. Arsenal won 4 of the last 5 meetings, and the last Spurs win in this fixture came back in May of 2022. To tonight's teams, and we start with the Gunners. Both sides riddled with injuries at the moment. David Raya starts in goal for Arsenal. A back 4 of Urian Timber, William Saliba, Gabriel and Miles Lewis Skelly. The same 4 that started at the weekend against Manchester United in the FA Cup. Thomas Partey, Declan Rice and Martin Odegaard, the captain, are in midfield. Leandro Trossard off the left side. Raheem Sterling starts on the right, and Kai Havertz leads the line. On the bench for Arsenal is Neto, Zinchenko, Tierney, Kivior, Jorginho, Moreno, Martinelli, Cabia and Butler Oyedeji. For Tottenham, well, they also have their injury problems, especially in goal. Antonin Kinski starts in goal again for his 3rd successive appearance after making his debut, this time last week against Liverpool. In a back 4 comes Pedro Porro, Radu Dragoshin, Archie Gray and Jed Spence, the same 4 that has been a custom for Spurs due to their injuries at the back. In midfield, Yves Bissouma, Pap Sarr and Lucas Bergvall, who scored that winner against the Liverpool in North London last Wednesday, he starts in midfield, with a front 3 of Dejan Kulusevski, Heung-min Son the captain, and Dominic Solanke leading the line. On the bench for Spurs is Brandon Austin, Reguilon, Hardy, Madison, Olusesi, Moore, Johnson, Lancashire and Richarlison returns. It is the spoils of North London. It is the bragging rights of the team of North London on the line tonight. Arsenal, second place with a win tonight. Spurs, they need to get any sort of win if they're to get themselves closer to the top half. Tough task for the team in 13th, but are they unlucky for some, or will 13th be lucky for Spurs? Kick off in the North London derby between Arsenal and Tottenham is on the way next. A reminder that also this evening there are 3 7:30 kickoffs. Goodison, Everton take on Aston Villa as David Moyes makes his first Premier League managerial appearance since his second spell at Everton was announced earlier in the week. Leicester take on Crystal Palace as two sides at very different parts of a relegation battle. Palace want to push themselves away. Leicester want to get themselves out of the bottom 3 with a win. And Newcastle take on Wolves at St James's Park. Our referee this evening is Simon Hooper, and Peter Banks is the VAR. Don't forget to like, subscribe and turn on post notifications if you haven't done so already. It's great to have you with us for this one, the North London derby. It gets folks around these parts very excited and up for it, and we're ready for it too, as we get underway at the Emirates, where Arsenal have failed to pick up victory in the last 2 games on this ground in the last 7 days. Knocked out of the FA Cup by Manchester United at the weekend, and that first leg defeat of the semi-final of the Carabao Cup against Newcastle last Tuesday night. It has not been plain sailing for the Gunners in this little spell. But another home game beckons, and another chance to put that right as Raheem Sterling gets an early free kick here. And Raheem Sterling, no stranger to big London derbies. Of course, played with Chelsea for a number of years. Chelsea and Spurs have a pretty fierce rivalry as well to those two clubs. But nothing like the North London derby. And it's the first set piece of the night. Something where Arsenal actually felt against United at the weekend. We're actually really poor and really lacklustre. We'll see what Declan Rice can do from the very first set piece of the evening for the Gunners. It's wide on this right hand side, and about 30 or so yards out. Rice whips a ball into the box, brought down by Havertz, who couldn't really get onto it as Kulusevski tries to clear it away, but Odegaard recycles it back for Arsenal. It's good play. The delivery was fabulous by Rice, and it just kind of caught Kai Havertz off guard, and he couldn't really take it down. Sterling nicked away by Bergvall, trying to step across Raheem Sterling again, but as he was battling back Sterling, he committed the foul on Bergvall, and Spurs will get the free kick. Well, I expect a fierce and feisty game tonight. A tough game for Simon Hooper to call. Let's hope it's just the referee that we have to keep an eye on and not VAR, as that's a good interception down the left-hand side by Arsenal. The ball through for Sterling. Still alive as the keeper came, and Spurs get it away. Goodness me, Antonin Kinski got himself in a bit of bother there. Really good pressure down that left-hand side by, I think it might have been Lewis Skelly. Stepped in against the Spurs press, and really nice ball in behind for Sterling, who made the run up against Jed Spence. Fabulous play. And it just didn't work out. The goalkeeper got a nick to it, got something to it, and the Spurs defence could get it clear of danger. But that was a nervy moment at the back for Antonin Kinski. As I said, only his third appearance in a Spurs shirt. Made his debut this time last week in a Carabao Cup semi-final. Here's Sterling. He's been heavily involved so far, Raheem Sterling. Plays it on to Odegaard, round about the edge of the box. Back to Partey. Now Gabriel. Down the left comes Lewis Skelly to Rice. Has to come back to Gabriel, as those Arsenal fans excited from what they've seen in the first 3 minutes or so. Here's Trossard. Back to Rice. Bit more movement from Arsenal. Lovely flick by Odegaard, as the cross was well blocked from Miles Lewis Skelly by Radu Dragoshin, and it will be an Arsenal corner. Again, it's really nice play down the left side by Arsenal. Beautiful flick by Odegaard. Lewis Skelly takes it on a stride, gets to the edge of the box and on the left hand side, and it will be a corner. Blocked off Dragoshin, who had his arm by his side there. It was definitely a corner, of which Declan Rice will come over and take. Of course, the Spurs fans in that away end, where Rice will be taking that corner. That's where those Tottenham fans are situated. Right-footed delivery by Rice, deep to the back post, and over the head of Partey, and anyone in there, goal kick. It was a nice idea, but Trossard was making the run round the back. He couldn't get to it, and it was too high for Thomas Partey to get at. Ultimately came to nothing. Son has the ball stolen away from him by Timber. No foul, said the referee. Really nice interchange of play by Arsenal in between the lines. Here's Rice. Out on the left-hand side comes Trossard. A bit more energy about Arsenal in these early moments. Although, as I say that, Trossard runs into problems. Gives it back to Kulusevski. Ball down the right-hand side from Porro. It's nicely cut out by Gabriel. A lot of manoeuvring for Arsenal in around that midfield. That time they just overplayed the situation. So it comes back to Archie Gray. the Spence for Spurs. Of course, this Spurs defence has been changed more times than enough, and it's got a bit of consistency with this back four. Spence at left back, Archie Gray and Radu Dragoshin at centre back, and Pedro Porro at right back. Albeit not the back four that Ange Postecoglou would have wanted. At the moment, needs must with injuries to Romero, Van de Ven and Destiny Udogie, who would be the other three that would join Porro usually. Spurs play themselves into trouble there with Bissouma pushing that one out of play. Through into the Gunners on the right hand side. A lot of draws so far this week. 3 draws out of our 4 games last night, and the only game that was a win was still a quite tight game between West Ham and Fulham. And we've an early goal from one of our early kickoffs this evening, and it has come at St James's Park, where Newcastle have taken the lead against Wolves. Alexander Isak, again in great form, is the Swedish international, and he has his 14th Premier League goal of the season to give Newcastle the lead. A Newcastle side who will jump up to the top 4 this evening with a win against Wolves, and that is currently what they're doing. So a great feat for Newcastle in that top 4. Here's Ødegaard, a break through for Arsenal. Down the right is Sterling trying to get it across. Well blocked by Gray. Out for the Arsenal corner. That was really good play again by Arsenal. They've got a couple of times tonight where they've broke free in midfield, and there's been space in behind that Spurs midfield where Ødegaard can try and exploit the half space, play it into the wide players and the forward players in Sterling, and Sterling tried to get it across the 6-yard box. Well blocked by Archie Gray and put behind for the corner, but there is space. Arsenal are exploding against Spurs at the moment. There's certainly space to exploit, and Arsenal enjoying themselves in these early moments. And another corner. Ødegaard goes short this time to Trossard. Trossard tried to go for the cross, but again blocked by Porro. Just bounce out for a throw on the far side. Timber will take this throw in. To Trossard. Got a bit loose. Does enough to get it back, does Leandro Trossard. Now Timber up against Bergvall. Brought down by Lucas Bergvall, and a free kick for Arsenal there. Yeah, Spurs really struggling to get any sort of possession so far. Just been Arsenal. Every time Spurs have tried to get up the field, Arsenal win the ball back. Just kind of come right back at them. Really struggled in these early moments of Tottenham. As the Arsenal manager and a set-piece coach are talking on the sidelines, as Arsenal get ready to take another set-piece. Ødegaard will be ready to take. Will be a left-footed effort. Swung in, and the keeper was there. I don't know whether an Arsenal player got any contact on it. See it again, whipped in by Ødegaard with his left foot. Whether it was an offside, I don't know, but the keeper came flying out, did Kinski, as he had to, and kind of shoved it away behind for the corner. But there was 2 Arsenal players in the vicinity. Whether they got any sort of contact on it, I'm not too sure, but it was definitely Kinski that had the last touch. It thumped it away. And it will be a corner to Arsenal on this right hand side, which Ødegaard will deliver again. Another in-swinger. Deep to the back post. Headed across, still in play, is the deflection from Trossard's effort. We'll take it behind for another Arsenal corner. Gabriel trying to G up the crowd behind that goal. It was a good delivery to the back post, and kind of dropped around about the byline. Kept in by Trossard, who tried to whip it back in. And ended up taking a deflection and going behind for another corner. That's their 4th of the game for Arsenal. So Rice will take this one on the left-hand side. Excuse me. Keep an eye on the Arsenal bodies at the back post. Spurs try and cover those spaces as they all come into the middle now, and it's punched away by Kinski from the Rice delivery. Recycled by Ødegaard. Call of man on. Rice will play the advantage here. As Ødegaard gets back to his feet. After that little challenge. Saliba pressed by two in Solanke and Dejan Kulusevski. Does well to get the pass off. Does Saliba, as that's given away cheaply by Lewis Skelly. And having to commit the foul does Miles Lewis Skelly, and a free kick to Tottenham around about the halfway line. A bit of respite for Spurs really. It's been non-stop defending for the last 10 minutes for the visitors. Certainly one way for Arsenal to assert their dominance in the early moments of this derby. Spurs with a long free kick. Headed away by Saliba, brought down by Kulusevski, but couldn't really make anything of it as Sterling now breaks away for Arsenal, who have 4 on the attack here. Down the left comes Trossard. He's got the overlap of Rice, but Trossard comes infield to Partey. Now Saliba out to the far right hand side for Sterling. Into Ødegaard, who will lift it to the back post, brought down by Rice, flicked on by Trossard, and well blocked. Partey with a shot charged down. That's better from Arsenal again. Rice now, he will whip one in. Brought down by Sterling in the box. Flicks it round Spence. Now Timber lifts it in. Headed away by Dragoshin. Ødegaard trying to rescue something. The Spurs try and scamper it away, but this Arsenal pressure is not allowing them out of their own defensive third at the moment. It is relentless pressure from the Gunners. Saliba skips away from Bergvall. In the central area, tries to be too cute with his skill, and luckily the clearance only went as far as Partey, as Saliba could have made that a bit more dramatic than it needed to be. Saliba now switches it out to the left for Trossard. Look at the space here for Leandro Trossard up against Porro. Trossard across. Dragoshin with the clearance, and it will bounce just out for a throw in on the far side. Goodness me, Spurs are absolutely under the cosh massively at the moment. Arsenal throwing everything they've got at Spurs so early in this game, and their pressure is relentless. Everything up until the shooting opportunities has been absolutely impeccable from Arsenal in these early moments. Sterling's cross, Timber's cross, was close to Sterling, but ended up into the hands of Antonin Kinski for Spurs. And I think all it really needed for Spurs at the moment is just to get a bit of possession, just a few touches of the ball, get the ball moving around. They just can't keep it as Kinski goes long, and it's won back by Gabriel. Fed into Ødegaard, Arsenal on the move. Sterling into the box, gets it back across, and Havertz wasn't there. Havertz wanted to break into the 6-yard box, and Sterling wanted to cut it back into the 18-yard box. Not on the same page there, those two. And that breaks down for Arsenal. But again, every time Arsenal come forward, there's that little bit of energy, that little bit of an extra bit of kind of excitement in the Arsenal attack. And the threat is certainly there. And Spurs struggling to deal with the Arsenal attacks at the moment. Bergvall breaks away from the pressure of Ødegaard, but runs into another man in Partey, I think that was. Here's Sterling now with the ball. He's brought down by Yves Bissouma, and the referee's just going to have a chat with Lucas Bergvall here for an earlier challenge. I don't think there's going to be a yellow card. I just think it'll be a talking to for the Spurs youngster. Yeah, he can, as I said, he kind of broke away from the edge of his own box from the pressure of Ødegaard, kind of turned him, and then as he strode forward, Lucas Bergvall, he kind of run into another press of Thomas Partey, and took a heavy touch which made him slide in on the challenge and almost caught Thomas Partey in a bad situation. And ultimately this is where Arsenal are going to get the free kick from this situation. So far, these opening minutes, first quarter of an hour, it's been all Arsenal. Here's Odegaard to deliver into the box. Kinski came and just about did enough. I think the flag was going to go up anyway against Arsenal. Maybe Trossard was the one that looked offside. See one of those chances from Arsenal again. That Odegaard delivery, fabulous touch by Rice, takes it down, passes it back to Trossard, and then his shot charged down. But again, the moves, the kind of initiative, the incentive, the kind of intensity from Arsenal's press and their attacking play today this evening. Oh, Kinski's caught in possession. Havertz couldn't make anything of it as Kinski battled back well. But again, that Arsenal press, Spurs just can't deal with it. Kinski just a bit too slow in trying to kick it away and clear a danger. And Havertz closing him down and just couldn't get the ball out of the keeper's grasp ultimately. That was a good chance once again. He just can't get anything on the ball at the minute, Tottenham. They're really being hounded in these early moments. Partey into the space for Odegaard. Down the right comes Sterling. Up against Spence. Rolls in Timber on the overlap. And a little nick off Jed Spence will allow Timber to just see it out for the corner. So much better from Arsenal. You know, we compare this start to the United game, or even before that, the Newcastle game. Yes, they started with intensity. Yes, they started with pressure. But one thing they didn't do was get in and around the box and really test the goalkeeper, really apply massive pressure upon the defences of their opponents. And that's a really good positive from Arsenal in these early moments, that they are just not allowing Spurs out and suffocating the Spurs defence at the moment. As Odegaard delivers this corner deep to the back post again. Kinski comes and punches. Sterling brings it down, trying to roll it in behind, but not dealt with as Saliba gets a bit loose in his pass, and now Kulusevski tries to break away with Son, and Rice on the chase to recover, and has blistering pace against Heung-min Son, does Rice, and recovers well for Arsenal. Odegaard trying to go over the top. Sterling was making the run between the two centre-backs, but well dealt with by Dragoshin. Odegaard though, silky, winning it back. Half time in a couple of those 7:30 kickoffs in the Premier League. We'll update you on those in a few moments, as Trossard there battling. And I think they're going to give a free kick against Trossard here for a foul on Pedro Porro. Just a free kick. As I was saying, those early kickoffs, there's two of them have just gone to half time. One's still playing at the moment. It is 0-0 between Everton and Aston Villa at the break. David Moyes' return to Goodison Park this evening, and his side at the moment competitive with Aston Villa, and it is 0-0 in that game, with two sides towards the bottom of the table in Leicester and Crystal Palace. Leicester in 19th, Palace in 15th at the moment, and two sides in a need of a big 3 points. Big 3 points for Crystal Palace. If they would get it tonight, they would go above Manchester United, and United would be heading into tomorrow night's game 15th in the Premier League table. If Leicester were to win tonight, they would go out of the bottom three, depending on Wolves' result away at Newcastle as well. And Newcastle currently beating Wolves by a goal to nil, and that has just gone to half time. The only goal of the early kickoffs or any of our games this evening is from Alexander Isak, and which has Newcastle 1 up at the break at St James's Park. So we'll keep it with the scores elsewhere. from around the grounds in those other games, and here, of course, at the Emirates of our live commentary. It's a real goal-filled night last night, as you can see on your screen. A complete total of 15 goals from our 4 games last night. 4 between Brentford and City, 4 between Chelsea and Bournemouth, 5 between West Ham and Fulham, and just the 2 between Nottingham Forest and Liverpool last night. So Arsenal got a bit excited up front, and Jed Spence has room to break down the right here, and a ball into the box, and Solanke forces a good save, or a good kind of touch from Gabriel, I think. That was fabulous from Spurs. First real good attack of the day, or of the evening. Bergvall does well to win it back in the midfield, and as it comes down the left hand side, it's Timber that gives the ball away. It's Spence trying to swing it in with the outside of his right boot. Lovely ball across Saliba. Gabriel there to try and get something on it, and does. Solanke was lurking. That was a chance for Tottenham, who have been absolutely nowhere in the first 20 minutes, but that's a glimpse, and they get their first corner of the game. Corner on the right hand side, Porro to deliver. Not fully cleanly brought down by Dragoshin, but Kulishevsky forces a good save off Raya. Much better from Spurs. The corner whipped in. It's not well dealt with by Arsenal, really. Saliba gets something on it with Dragoshin, but as it bounces down, Kulishevsky, the first to react, takes it down beautifully and tried to strike it past the keeper, the first chance in the narrow angle. And Raya makes a good save, parries it wide for the corner. It was better from Spurs. Porro whips in again. Bounces down again. But Sterling is there to hook it away. And now Spurs looking to play Arsenal at their own game, although they've given it away with Spence. And now a brick on as Bissouma gets back in ahead of Martin Odegaard. But that was tight. That was close. Spurs living dangerously there as they pushed themselves up the field and almost were caught out at the back. That was good recovery by Yves Bissouma. Halfway through the first half already, it's absolutely flown by in these early moments with how eccentric and how exciting this game has been. You know, the North London derby, a lot of people say it's probably their favourite derby to watch because of how kind of much it means to both teams, but also how attacking both teams go. They're not afraid to throw everything at each other. Here's Havertz. Out to the right is Sterling. Takes a bit of time. Not in a hurry. Partey now. Odegaard. Whipped out wide to Timber. Sterling back to Timber. Odegaard again. Just a bit taking too much time on that one, Arsenal. Maybe should have got the cross in a bit earlier. Out to Sterling again. Back to Odegaard. Fizzes one to the back post. Trossard gets it across, but bounces up into the hands of Antonin Kinski in the Spurs goal as he unleashes Pap Sarr on the move down the right hand side. Sarr bursting forward here for Spurs. No real Arsenal stoppage in the way. Nice 1-2 with Kulishevsky. Sarr trying to get it across, and a good block off Partey. Gets a Spurs corner. I mean, far too passive from Arsenal. Fabulous play by Kinski, rolls it out to Sarr, and Sarr's just got space to roam. No one tracking back, no one stopping him in his tracks. Far too casual, far too passive from Arsenal. Goes for a nice give and go with Kulishevsky, leaves the space in behind Lewis Skelly, and then the cutback by Sarr, well blocked by Partey, but again poor as Son has the shot. 1-0. The second phase of the corner bounces out to Heung-min Son. And it is this Spurs captain that gives Tottenham the lead. Arsenal have probably been the better side all the way through these early moments, but it is Tottenham who strike first in the North London derby. A derby they haven't won in over 2.5 years, and they've taken an early lead at the Emirates. Arsenal 0, Spurs 1, and it's from a corner. The second phase of the corner, the ball's whipped in. It bounces off an Arsenal defender, I think, or might fall back out. Whoever it comes off, out to Son on the edge of the box. And as it falls, he takes it on the bounce. It takes a wicked deflection. It bounces away from David Raya, and Heung-min Son's effort finds the bottom right corner. And Tottenham lead by a goal to nil. After being under the cosh for so early and having to ride a real storm against the Gunners, it is Spurs who strike first. Arsenal 0, Tottenham 1, and it is the Spurs captain, Heung-min Son. Wow. What a response from Spurs. I did say that they had to ride this storm, they had to do the tough tasks, they knew they were going to be up against a really energetic and kind of an Arsenal team that wanted to show their resilience tonight after 2 tough results, but they've bounced back, they've held on in there for those early moments, and they've struck when they needed to, and here they come again, and it's Solanke in behind Saliba this time. Solanke's going to get beaten to it, and the ball is just going to evade both players and go out for a goal kick to Arsenal. That's much better from Tottenham. And Arsenal, maybe them playing themselves into trouble. I said it, they were far too passive on the challenge on Sarr. It just allowed him to roam right up the right hand side of the pitch, and that won the corner, albeit a second phase of a corner, but he won the corner, which ultimately led to the opening goal. And you'd think the Arsenal set piece coach, who's very good at attacking corners, and that wasn't very good in terms of defensively from that corner for Arsenal, and that's where they find the deficit, as Pape Sarr is shown a yellow card here for a challenge. And the referee's going to show a yellow card to Pape Sarr, so a booking for the Spurs midfielder. And Heung-min Son, all the talks in recent weeks, is he declining? It's his 6th Premier League goal of the season. Maybe a much needed goal for his confidence. He did score directly from a corner against Manchester United in the Carabao Cup quarter-final. Did score and assisted twice in the game against Southampton in the Premier League. And that's his last Premier League goal up until tonight. Here's Trossard. Try to again come in field. I've noticed that a lot. When it's Trossard playing down that left-hand side for Arsenal, he wants to come inside a lot more. Whereas Martinelli, if he's down that left side, is much more aggressive, wants to take on his man one-on-one to the byline. Whereas Trossard always wants to try and drive in-field with the ball. And he's done it 2 or 3 times tonight. And every time Spurs have had the cover and blocked him off. There's been barely any room for him to exploit down that side. And, you know, it does beg the question. You know, we talk about the change from Mikel Arteta, and maybe it's just fitness, doesn't want more injuries, but Gabriel Martinelli offers that little bit of extra burst of pace down the left flank, and he's willing to take on a man more than Leandro Trossard is. Just makes you wonder, does he not want to isolate Pedro Porro on that side? Does he not want to test him one-on-one? Because Trossard is almost exclusively coming onto his instep, onto his right foot on the inside, which makes him a lot less dangerous against the Spurs defence. And I think if he just went on the outside, he could offer a little bit more of a threat. And so far, Trossard's really looked haphazard down that left-hand side. Here's Rice, though. Breaking forward down the left. Here is Trossard. As he's brought to the byline, but again wants to come back in field. Lovely spin there by Trossard. Beautiful play. As it's cleared away by Dragoshin. That's what I mean. On his left foot, Trossard is deadly, and he can find the space down that side. And just as I was about to say, he wants to come back on himself again after taking on Pedro Porro. He spins him. Absolutely fabulous. And absolutely sends Pedro Porro to the shops there. And Porro has hurt himself in the process. I think he might have got caught in the kind of grass, the turf, as he tried to turn. Maybe got his studs caught and has a bit of pain, but beautiful bit of skill by Trossard. And absolutely turned Pedro Porro and ripped him a new one, really, down that left side. That's exactly what I'm talking about. You know, it couldn't have been more perfectly timed when I was talking about Leandro Trossard against Porro. He's much more threatening, much more of a a massive threat to Spurs defensively when he does go on the outside, when he does go on the overlap, when he does take his man one-on-one. That's where he can find the joy. Coming in field and into a compacted kind of area centrally around about the edge of the Spurs box is not where Leandro Trossard is going to find joy and attacking kind of moments in this game. But again, while Pedro Porro is getting a bit of treatment, we can see the Spurs goal. It's a long looping ball that it just drops for Son. I think it's maybe Partey that gets a nick on it with his inside of his right leg, and it does kind of catch catch David Raya out in the Arsenal goal. And yeah, it's just a bit poor defensively from Arsenal, but really good quality from Heung-min Son. There's Porro on his feet again after receiving that treatment, so he's on the far side. Sterling, Ødegaard, back to Saliba, across to Gabriel now as Arsenal look and search for an equaliser. Sterling, down the right. Has to come back in field, links up with Partey, out wide it goes to Timber. Now Partey again, Ødegaard on this right side as Arsenal keep movement up front. Nice ball into Timber, Timber across! Cleared away by Dragusin again. I think the flag went up anyway against Jurrien Timber. So offside. Pedro Porro returns to the field of play. Kinski plays a nice ball down the right for Dragusin to break here, but as he plays it forward to Kulusevski, it's intercepted well by Arsenal down that side. And a nice ball into Ødegaard. Down the right comes Sterling. This is where Arsenal can be a threat. Lots of Spurs bodies back, but Ødegaard in the tight gap buys a challenge and kind of entices Dejan Kulusevski to make the challenge, and Martin Ødegaard gets a Arsenal free kick out of that situation. That's also one massive positive about Martin Ødegaard, is that he's a massive threat when you give him space, but when he gets in those tight little areas, you know, he can be a threat by winning you a free kick and enticing the opposition to go, well, he's in a tight space, I'm going to kind of close him down, otherwise he's going to tear us apart here. And you entice that foul, you entice that kind of challenge, and that even when you think he's kind of crowded out and in a no-man's zone, you think it can still win you a free kick and get you out of that and give you a set piece in a good area, which he has done here, the Arsenal captain. There's Rice and Ødegaard over it. There's a good left footer attempt if he can swing it round into that top corner. Of course it is, but maybe eyeing up a sneaky one with the right foot. And looks like Rice is just walking away anyway. So it looks like it will be Ødegaard that will take this free kick. Ødegaard will whip it to the back post and head it behind by Yves Bissouma for a corner. Spotted the run off the back of him, Bissouma, and didn't want to take any risk of it dropping to the Arsenal man. Just heads it behind for a corner and alleviates that pressure for the moment. Just over 10 minutes to go with the first half. Arsenal trail by a goal to nil. And Rice to take this corner on this side. Right-footed delivery into the box. It comes, punched away by Kinski. And Ødegaard recycles it round the corner, but as it comes out to Rice, Bissouma's there to charge it down and try and get Spurs on the attack here with Kulusevski holding up well. Back to Bissouma, who will switch it out to the left, but bobbling ball come off the head of Sterling, who gets it away the second time. And Spence gives it back. Quite a hospital pass by Archie Gray, who deals with it well, and now tries to play in Son. But the pass is just curling out of play. I mean, that's massive from Archie Gray. I mean, we've talked about it in previous games that I've commented on Tottenham, in the League Cup semi-final last week, and Premier League games at galore since. But, you know, I spoke about it time and time again. What a job he's doing at centre-back. You know, not his natural position, up against the top teams in the country, in a position he is still learning the trades of. And he's doing an exceptional job hanging on in there, and while he's learning and doing his very best. And at the moment, he's a credit to Tottenham as Archie Gray at the moment. Rice across the party. Out to the right hand side comes Sterling. Not often you really see Raheem Sterling on the right hand side of a front three. Historically at Manchester City and at Chelsea he has played off the left more often than not. That's a lovely ball over the top to find Trossard. Beautiful, he whips one in. Well headed away by Gray. I think it might have been Partey that whipped the ball to him, but it was a fabulous ball out to Trossard on that left flank. Here comes Odegaard out to Sterling on the right side again. Taking a bit too much time on it. Takes his man on and Spence. And he doesn't win that battle. Jed Spence gets a goal kick for Tottenham. Don't know whether it's the Arsenal fans being a bit frustrated by Raheem Sterling so far, but every time he got on the ball it kind of seemed a bit of a groan whenever he kind of stopped with it and didn't want to take his man on and tried to jink his man and kind of catch out Jed Spence, who was alert to it all the time. There seemed to be that little groan from the home fans. Kinski a bit nervy so far in this one, I have to say, the Spurs keeper, but as I've said, it's his only his third appearance for Tottenham. You know, it was such a quick turnaround. I mean, he was signed 10 days ago. 10 days ago, 3 days before his debut for Tottenham, was Antonin Kinski. Made his debut against Liverpool last Wednesday, and also played at the weekends. And then, of course, making his Premier League debut this evening for Tottenham. Porro. Nice one too. Finds Kulishevsky. Break down the right here for Sarr. Steps in field, but that's a good challenge by Lewis Skelly. And wins it back for Arsenal. Nice space to break down the left is Skelly. Out to Trossard. Up against Porro. Leandro Trossard takes on his man. Gets to the byline. And wins Arsenal a corner. Off Porro. Again, what I'm saying. Trossard tick on his man. And he's getting joy out of Porro again. And gets another Arsenal corner. But credit to Miles Lewis Skelly. Fabulous challenge on Pap Sarr. That's really good play from the youngster. Of course, another young player having to take place at left back. The 18-year-old, due to injuries to the Arsenal team at the moment, but he's in there by merit more recently because of how well he's been playing at left back for the Gunners. His challenge ends up getting Arsenal a corner. Rice to deliver, right-footed, right across and headed on and in. And Gabriel, the man who so often pops up at the back post for Arsenal, pops up again to level the game. Wonderful delivery by Rice. Wonderful header by a run by Gabriel, and the header popped in. Arsenal catching Spurs out again. And whether it is the Spurs defence that blocks the keeper from getting to it or not, it's a fabulous run by Gabriel. Breaks round the back post. Gets up ahead of his marker in Radu Dragoshin. And gets a slight deflection off Dominic Solanke, who's in there as well. And that's fabulous. Great response from Arsenal. And a much needed equaliser before the half-time whistle was needed there. And they have got it. And it's nearly always the case that Arsenal find a crucial goal from a set piece. Arsenal 1, Spurs 1. And that has changed the atmosphere inside the Emirates now. Arsenal back on terms. And now they want to go and take the lead. And I think the Premier League will credit that goal to Dominic Solanke as an own goal rather than a Gabriel goal, because it did come off Solanke last. And I don't think the ball was heading into the back of the net from Gabriel's header initially. So Dominic Solanke will be credited with an own goal for now. But we will confirm that. There was a bit of question marking as to whether it was a foul or a corner in any case for Arsenal, but we'll talk about that at half-time. Spurs have a free kick of their own here. Bergvall, right-footed, deep, but well seen and well gathered by David Raya, who gets Arsenal a bit of comfort. A couple of goals to tell you about from those early games as well. And the second spell at Everton for David Moyes has started with them going behind to Aston Villa. Ollie Watkins with the opener for Villa has given the visitors the lead there at Goodison. Speaking of visitors leading, it is a lead for the visitors at the King Power Stadium as Crystal Palace are 1-0 up against Leicester. Jean-Philippe Mateta with the goal shortly after half-time. So a goal in every game so far this evening, and it's still Newcastle 1, Wolves 0 at the moment. And 1-1 of course here between Arsenal and Spurs. The last meeting between these two here at the Emirates in the Premier League was a draw, 2-2 draw. The last two meetings which Arsenal won were both on the other side of North London at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. It was both of those meetings were in 2024. Quite interestingly, didn't play here in a North London derby in 2024. These two, October of 2023 was the last time they met on this ground. Spurs break away with the ball now with Bergvall. They want to respond to that Arsenal equaliser. Kulishevsky. It's almost like they're going toe-to-toe, these two teams. That's why we love this derby, you know. They're not afraid to throw everything at each other. It's kind of, both teams leave everything out on that pitch and have nothing left come the full-time whistle. And that's what a derby is meant to be. That's the essence of a derby. That's a good challenge by Partey. Odegaard, there's space for Arsenal to exploit here. Trossard will shoot and will score. That's a cracking goal. Leandro Trossard. Fabulous goal. And in a matter of moments, Arsenal come from behind to lead in the derby. Absolutely sensational from Leandro Trossard. Absolutely incredible goal from distance. And it is an arrowed effort into the bottom right corner. Really good pressure by Arsenal in the midfield. Won by Partey. I said there was space to exploit as the ball given away by Bissouma. Odegaard feeds it out to the left for Trossard, who waits no time. He knows he's going to take this strike as soon as he gets the ball. And as he swings it across, beautiful left-footed strike with the instep, comes across the keeper, who dives a bit too early, doesn't get a full hand to it. It bounces up, bounces over him, and goes into the far corner for 2-1. Arsenal turning this game on its head, and that one will go down as a Leandro Trossard goal. And what has happened in these final few minutes of the first half to Tottenham? 1-0 up to 2-1 down. That is fabulous from Arsenal. They look more energetic, they look more up for it in those early moments in the first 30 minutes or so. Spurs got that opening goal, which kind of disrupted Arsenal. It kind of unsettled the crowd. Gabriel with the equaliser. And then Trossard, the goal to give Arsenal the lead. That's how quickly a London derby, any game, when you face Arsenal, can change. And Spurs, from the highest heights to what will feel like the lowest lows at the moment, and a complete swapping of the positive vibes, really, here in North London. It's Gray under pressure. Does well to turn away from Odegaard initially, but good pressure by Odegaard keeps the pressure on Archie Gray, but it will be a Spurs throw. I think Spurs are desperate for half time here. Still a good bit of time. It's still about 2.5 minutes of the 4 added to play before half time. And Arsenal have been fired up since that equaliser. And that's turned it on its head. And this crowd is rocking now. Rice. Trossard over the top. Cleared away by Gray, but brought down by Trossard again. To Sterling. Back to Trossard. Nice Saliba. Through the lines, finds Odegaard. Edge of the box comes Martin Odegaard, rolls it on to Havertz. Havertz on the turn. Shot charged down. Rice, though, keeps it alive. It's almost like the first 20 minutes is reoccurring again at the end of this half. Arsenal applying all sorts of pressure to Spurs, and Spurs not able to get out of their own half at the minute. Trossard. On the turn is Timber. Outside to Sterling. Trossard on this right hand side at the moment. Back to Raheem Sterling. Now Odegaard. We'll roll it across the party. Again, Arsenal just keeping the ball at the moment, waiting for the right moment. And so Trossard couldn't keep it alive. His party bundled over. And it will be a free kick given away by Jed Spence, who isn't happy with that. I think the Spurs bench aren't happy with that decision to give a foul. And I think we've noticed that Ange Postecoglou, I saw the screen, I could read his lips. He said the referee's got absolutely no idea, I think is what he was saying. That's not my words, that's Ange Postecoglou's words that I read there quite clearly. He said that. Second goal for Newcastle against Wolves at the moment. It is 2-0 now of the home side, and Isak has his second of the night and his 15th Premier League goal of the season. He is certainly in the Golden Boot race at the moment, with Salah and Haaland at the top two. Rice to deliver this set piece, cleared away by Spence. He ultimately committed the foul early, with about 15 seconds to go. Surely this should be the end of the half in a moment, as Raya thumps it long. And Porro across just to see it out for an Arsenal throw on that left side. And there is the half-time whistle. At half-time, after what has been quite a crazy, energetic, intense first half here in North London, it is the Gunners that have the spoils. It is the Gunners that have the advantage at the break, and partly deservedly so. They've been the better side, but Spurs kind of caught them off guard with their opener through Son after 25 minutes. Gabriel was involved in the equaliser, but Dominic Solanke is credited with the own goal to level the game, and Leandro Trossard with a sweet strike beating Kinski from distance to give Arsenal the lead at the break. Half time at the Emirates, it's Arsenal 2, Spurs 1 in the North London derby. Analysis on the way next. Welcome back to Premier League Live. Half-time at the Emirates Stadium. It is Arsenal 2, Tottenham 1 at the break, and the Gunners had to come from behind in that first half to lead at the break when Heung-min Son gave Tottenham the lead early after 25 minutes, after Arsenal probably had the best start to the game in a very intense first 20 minutes against Tottenham, but it was Spurs that took the lead through Son, but it was an own goal from Dominic Solanke that levelled the game from a corner 15 minutes later for the Arsenal equaliser. Before a minute before half-time, Leandro Trossard unleashed a sweet strike from the edge of the box right across Kinski to beat the Spurs keeper to give Arsenal the lead. Right, so that is where we stand at half-time. We're into the second halves in those three early kickoffs that kicked off at 7:30 this evening in the Premier League, where Everton are trailing 1-0 to Aston Villa. It's Crystal Palace 1 up away at Leicester, and Newcastle 2 to the good against Wolves at the moment. About 25 minutes or so to go in all of those, so we'll round up the full-time scores of those games when they come through to us, and all the updates from around the grounds will continue right through the night. On last night, there was a massive amount of action, a massive amount of excitement from all of those games last night. Lots of goals, 15 in total in last night's 4 Premier League games. Brentford came from 2-0 down late in the game to draw with Manchester City. In that one it finished 2-2. Chelsea were behind twice in that game. They're actually leading. They were behind once in the game. They were leading the game as well. It was a topsy-turvy game at Stamford Bridge. Tough to remember. They led before Bournemouth turned it all around for 2-1 before Chelsea got that late equaliser to level the game 2-2. Reece James with the 95th minute equaliser for Chelsea. It was to be a bit more comfortable, at least for a lot of the time, for West Ham, who cruised into a 2-goal lead at half-time. Fulham got one back through a Iwobi just after the half, before West Ham made it a slight bit easier for themselves to increase to a 2-goal lead once again with a third goal. But Fulham kept it nervy towards the end, with Iwobi getting his second of the night to keep Fulham in tabs. But the only team to come away with nothing out of last night's games, because Nottingham Forest were close to doing the double over Liverpool last night. They would have been their first double over the Reds since the 1960s if Nuno could do it. And his side, they were actually 1-0 up in the game. Chris Wood with the goal after 8 minutes against Liverpool. But Diogo Jota, just 22 seconds after being substituted on, and Kostas Tsimikas, also 22 seconds after being substituted on, combined to get the Liverpool equaliser last night from a corner. Liverpool pushed and probed for the winner, but it wasn't to be against a very resilient and very resolute Nottingham Forest defence. And a draw for Forest last night was enough to put them into second. But with Arsenal winning this evening, at the moment as it stands, Arsenal will reclaim second spot and would close the gap to league leaders Liverpool to 4 points, although the Reds would have a game in hand. So that's where the story of this Premier League match week so far, but we do still have a bit of time to go this week, because we have 2 more games tomorrow night. Is Ipswich and Brighton. That's the early game tomorrow before our commentary game sees Manchester United take on Southampton at Old Trafford. And after Manchester United's mood-boosting victory over Arsenal on penalties in the FA Cup at the weekend, and surely a big home win in the Premier League would be to follow against bottom of the table Southampton. But you never know. Manchester United have a torrid home record this season, even by their own recent standards. And that is on Thursday. Right, so that's where we stand at the break. But let's just really round up that first half, because really here at the Emirates, it was a very dramatic first half. We say all the time about this derby, the North London derby is like no other. It is one of those where both sides give their absolute all for the full 90 minutes. And I don't mean that they kind of keep it dogged and really rough and ready, but they're intense in the way that they play the game. They're intense in doing everything they've got to do to win this football match, and that's why we love this derby so much. They're so aggressive on attack that it makes it chaotic, it makes it chaos, it makes it absolutely bonkers at times, and it's better for the neutral to watch. I mean, I'm sure it's absolutely kind of nail-biting and really nervy for the fans of either Arsenal or Tottenham. But for the neutral, it is by far the best derby and the best matchup in the Premier League, because these two really do not care about defending when it comes to playing each other, and they just go for it. And the many derbies, the many crazy North London derbies we have had over the years, is just a testament to how both teams set up against each other, how both teams want to play, and how both teams display their qualities. Because they both press high, they both keep the intensity, they both fight for every single ball, every single challenge, every single battle, every single duel, and they're chaotic. Both teams are chaotic when they face each other, and it just makes for a fantastic game to watch. And we recap the goals. The set piece goals. The first two goals really poor. In terms of set-piece defending. We talk about the Spurs opener. I talk about before the corner was even given to Spurs, Pap Sarr got the ball on the edge of his own box and said, you know what, I'm just going to run. And he had space ahead of him. Arsenal, I said it at the time, far too passive in their defending of Pap Sarr. He just charged up the right-hand side. Really good play. Played the ball off to Kulusevski, who returned it right back to him. The give and go. He got to the byline, cut it back, got the corner. Then the corner comes in. He takes it short. In the second phase, it's whipped into the box. It comes deflected off an Arsenal or Spurs player in the box in that muddle from the second phase of the corner. It falls to Heung-min Son. It was looped up in the air for quite a distance, quite a time, before it came down to Son. He took it first time on the half volley as it bounced. They took a little bit of a deflection off Thomas Partey and went into the bottom right corner. But again, poor from Arsenal. Again, too passive in defending before the corner, and then when the corner comes in, not aggressive enough to get to the edge of the box. The ball was in the air for quite a time. Everybody knew that Heung-min Son, when that ball dropped, he was going to shoot. But Arsenal, too passive, too kind of back-footed to get out there, to get to him, to close down the space and not allow him to have the shot, and that's what ends up with the Spurs goal. Then the Arsenal equaliser comes about 15 minutes later, after the Spurs opener. Arsenal come up the other end, get a corner down the left side. Bit of confusion, a bit of upset from the Spurs kind of bench as to whether it was a corner or not to Arsenal, because it was Porro and Trossard linking up down that side. And I said about Leandro Trossard, cutting inside is not going to get him any joy tonight. Kind of feeding into that central area is just going to close him space. He's not going to get himself an opportunity. But going around the outside of Pedro Porro is where he will find joy. And it's come to fruition. Down that outside, he takes on Pedro Porro, gets the corner. Maybe a bit fortunate to get the corner, as he might have the last touch himself, but it's inconclusive. Goes for the corner, whipped in beautifully by Rice. And Gabriel does everything right. Runs down to the back post and carries Dragusin and Solanke with him. So he's got two markers, really. Gabriel gets the header across goal, kind of heads it back across, and it deflects off Solanke and beats his keeper for 1-1. But again, better from Arsenal. They take on the man, win the corner. Beautiful delivery by Rice, as it almost exclusively is, to the back post. And we know what Arsenal can do from set pieces. Maybe a bit of fortune in that it deflects off Solanke, but if you're not there to head the ball off the player, then really you don't get your fortune. You don't make your own. You make your own luck in this game. And Arsenal, beautiful delivery, really smart from Gabriel to head it back across goal and know there might be a deflection, and gives them itself the chance and gets that equaliser. And then really the aggression continues. Arsenal know that they've got the momentum. They maybe could steal a second before half time, and that's exactly what they do. They keep that aggressive nature up, and again, a bit too slow in the midfield. Yves Bissouma kind of overruns the ball, gives it away. Challenged well by Thomas Partey, who aggressively challenges for the ball, plays it through for Odegaard, and the space out in the left flank, absolutely huge for Leandro Trossard to exploit. Odegaard feeds it out to the left side, and Trossard takes a couple of strides forward, gets to the edge of the box, hits it with his left, across the goal. Kinski dives a bit too early for it, kind of bounces up off his left hand and into the bottom right corner, but really fabulous play from Arsenal in responding to that Spurs opener. And I think it came from a bit of, as I said, a bit of slow Arsenal play, a bit of lacklustre defending, and a bit passive from the Gunners in the end. And they responded, they got back into the game, and a fighting spirit that got them back and leading at half time. So that will be positive for for Mikel Arteta. For Ange Postecoglou, really, at half time, I would have to say that his side once again have give themselves a lead, but maybe settled on that lead a bit too much, and became what Arsenal were when Spurs scored. They were a bit too passive. They were a bit lacking aggression, lacking intensity, lacking that energy to get out to the ball, to stop the passes, to stop the attacks, which they were in those early moments, which is why Arsenal weren't really getting much joy in and around the box. But once the space was there, once they got the opportunities, Arsenal, they started taking them, and I mean, the rest was history, because Spurs gave them chances, and Arsenal are going to take them because they're a good quality side. Right, the second half is on the way in just a moment. Don't forget, though, more Premier League football, as I mentioned. Manchester United take on Southampton tomorrow at 8 o'clock here on LFS. Then, at the weekend, we have a Sunday doubleheader for you here on LFS, as the early game is Spurs back in action again as they head up to Merseyside, as they take on Everton under David Moyes. Everton, who are 1-0 down at home against Villa at the moment, but as Everton Spurs on Sunday at 2 o'clock. And then in the late game on Sunday at 4:30, it's Ipswich as they take on Manchester City, who have dropped points in this midweek from a two-goal lead. They're 14 points dropped from winning positions this season for City, and they head to Kieran McKenna's Ipswich on Sunday. Right, second half in the North London Derby on the way next. Do stay with us. Welcome back to Premier League Live, where the second half between Arsenal and Spurs is getting underway in a moment. Spurs are making a couple of changes at half time, but a roundup of those other games at the moment is Everton 0, Aston Villa 1, Leicester 0, Crystal Palace 1, and Newcastle 2-0 up against Wolves. There's around about 15 minutes or so to go in those games, a couple of minutes either side of that. Between the games, but around about 15 minutes to go in those three early kickoffs, and at the moment it is two away sides at the moment that are leading, and one home team from those early games, and we'll keep you up to date with those and the final scores from those games. Right, I'll tell you about those changes in a matter of seconds when we get the second half underway. Don't forget to like, subscribe and turn on post notifications if you haven't done so already. And those changes for Spurs means they have work to do in the second half, and Arsenal have a lead to keep a hold of as they get underway for the second 45 in this North London derby. As I said, Arsenal have recent good form in this fixture. 4 of the last 5 meetings between the two have been Arsenal wins, both home and away. But the last home meeting for Arsenal against Spurs did end in a 2-2 draw, so they will want to get back to winning ways at home against Spurs with a win here tonight. As we're underway then. Those double changes, by the way, I can tell you about for Spurs. Yves Bissouma and Pape Sarr are off, and James Maddison and Brennan Johnson are on. So midfield changes for Tottenham. But here come Arsenal on the break here with Miles Skelly. Almost overrun himself there. Sterling now onto Trossard. Trossard back in field to Sterling. Sterling! Well charged down by the Spurs defence, but Arsenal win it back off Kulusevski. Trossard. Partey goes back to Gabriel. Odegaard. It's all about Arsenal keeping control of this and really taking command of the second half. That third goal would be huge for them. But as we know in this game, in this derby, even if they do get a third, Arsenal, it's not done and dusted. Spurs will fight to the death, will fight to the very end to keep this game alive and to keep attacking. That's what makes this derby so entertaining and makes it that it's never over until the final whistle is blown, no matter what the scoreline is. And Spence wins a throw in for Spurs down the left side. A third goal in the game at St James's Park, and that should be game over now as Newcastle again taking a commanding lead against a side in the bottom half. Anthony Gordon with his the third goal. And Newcastle cruising to another 3 points, which would put them, as it stands, in the top 4. They would be a point ahead of Chelsea, and 3 points ahead of Manchester City, and 3 points ahead of Aston Villa, who are currently winning as well at the moment in that one. 3-0 to Newcastle. Kinski under pressure. Got it out well again to Dragoshin. Lovely play by Johnson, first time to Porro. And now Kulusevski tried to keep the ball, but was just a bit behind him, the pass, and Rice could cut that one out for a Spurs throw. It's lovely play by Brennan Johnson, dropping back to kind of combine to get the Spurs forward. So Archie Gray turns back to Kinski. Madison dropping a bit deeper to keep Spurs in possession. Porro. Dragoshin. Back to Kinski. Right to the left hand side for Spence. Into Bergvall. Lovely ball out wide to Madison. He does well against the challenge of Partey. And Bergvall now does swing it out to the right, but well cut out by Rice. But again, well marshalled by Solanke to keep it alive. As it comes down the right with Brennan Johnson into Kulusevski in the box, chops back onto his left. Well blocked by Rice. Johnson. Porro. Much better from Spurs is Madison. Was eyeing up a shot there, but he didn't take the shot. Back to Porro. Bergvall out to Porro again. Better movement from Spurs as here comes Son. And another deflection. Came off Dominic Solanke. Goal kick. Once again, you know, when Spurs get in that position, Arsenal are kind of stepping off a little bit. They're not engaging maybe as aggressively as I thought they would be. And it's better from Spurs, but at the moment, Arsenal not in a desperate need to throw it all out there. It's Spurs that are the team behind, and as Ange Postecoglou said, he wants them to be the aggressors. And at the moment, they kind of have to be. Here's Son down the left. Heung-min Son rolls it on for the overlap. Cross in from Madison, but low and hard, and easily gathered by Raya. Oh, given away by Partey. Necked away by Son here off Saliba. Son tried to sneak it in the near post, but Raya got across and dealt with that situation well. Yeah, it was good pressure by Spurs on the Arsenal, kind of playing out from the back there, and it's given away once by Partey and then come back to Saliba, and he had it nicked away by Son. Just got a bit caught out there, did Arsenal. A couple of goals to tell you about Elsewhere, Crystal Palace have taken command of their lead now. They've doubled it now with Leicester. It's Mark Gurhey, their captain, that has doubled the lead. It is 2-0 to Palace, and a tough night for Ruud van Nistelrooy once again. And another goal at St James's Park. It may not be over just yet, as Wolves have got one back against Newcastle. And Vito Pereira's side back in the game. Santiago Bueno, with around 10 minutes to go. He's got a goal back. Is it enough to get back into the game? Well, I can just hold that thought because the goal has just been disallowed, so they won't have that goal. 3-0. It remains to Newcastle. And that whole last 20 seconds is irrelevant. 3-0 it remains. And the VAR got involved and ruled that Wolves goal out, so a slight glimmer of hope for Wolves, dashed away by VAR in a matter of seconds. Ooh. I don't know what Lucas Bergvall was doing there. He gave away a corner, but he slid in. I don't know where he was, what he was sliding in for. He had Sterling at bay, and all he had to do was usher it out. But slides in, puts the ball out for the Arsenal corner. And it's their 8th corner of the game. It's where they got their equaliser in the first half, did the Gunners. Albeit from a deflection that ended up in an own goal, but still a goal nonetheless, as Ødegaard delivers again. Flicked onto the front post and flicked wide by Kai Havertz. Good opportunity. Just evading the back of the net. Havertz got up. It looked like it might have been a deflection there of Spence, but just a goal kick given. There's Bergvall. Nice touch to feed it onto Maddison. He will look for the overlap of Spence, and Spence in behind for Son. Son battling with Saliba, and Saliba just let it roll out of play for a goal kick. And there's the England manager, Thomas Tuchel, in the crowd, watching a couple of those playing tonight. I'm sure Declan Rice will be one he's keeping a close eye on. Maybe Raheem Sterling as well. You never know. Dominic Solanke might be the one that's maybe hot-footing it towards an England call-up with his recent form. An own goal won't help him, though. Still put it in the back of the net, but it was his own net that he put it in, Dominic Solanke. Another man maybe on the books for Tuchel to watch. Maybe Archie Gray, young Archie Gray, to watch tonight as well. Might be on his radar. Here is Gray. Back to Kinski. Will fire it long up the middle. Flicked on by Solanke with a chest, but capitalised upon there by Spurs, and has tried to win it back. Porro shoving Trossard to the ground. Free kick to Arsenal. When we talk about where Arsenal could be with a win, but a Spurs defeat, it would be their 11th of the season, and it would be their first in their last 2 games, considering they won their last 2. But it would be their 4th defeat in their last 7 games, apologies, in all competitions. In recent fixtures, their only wins coming in the FA Cup and the Carabao Cup, but they haven't won a Premier League game since Southampton back in mid-December. They have failed to win any of their last 4 Premier League games. The only point in the last 4 was that 2-2 draw with Wolves at home. They haven't picked up a single point other than that since that 5-0 victory away at Southampton in mid-December. So Spurs in much need of a Premier League victory, but they are at the moment trailing and struggling in the North London derby, which would mean Spurs might have to keep an eye over their shoulder, because as it stands, with Crystal Palace winning, they will be level on points with Tottenham, behind on goal difference, and Manchester United would be on the coattails as well. They would be just a point behind Spurs if Spurs were to lose tonight, and could go above them with a win tomorrow. Here's Odegaard. Cuts it back to Sterling. Charged down. Cross in by Partey. The header by Havertz is straight down the throat of Kinski. Better from Arsenal again. Pushing for that third. Really good play by Partey. Whips it in first time, and Havertz had the space and time. Headed it straight down the keeper's throat. He's got a bit of a nick here. Havertz to Sterling. Could make it work. And Bergvall clears it away, but that's relentless pressure from Arsenal again. And it almost bore fruit once again. Throw in ticking quickly. Odegaard at the byline, but can't make anything of it as it comes across to Kinski. Here comes Spurs down the right. That's what I mean about this game. It's end to end. It's non-stop. Here's Shulishevsky. Cuts it back to Brennan Johnson. His shot's charged down. Well kept alive though. Porro. Kulishevsky again. Lifts one in again this time. Trying to find Son, but headed away at the back post by Timber. And Spurs battling back now. Spence. Madison. Back to Jed Spence down the left. Rolls it on to Son down the sideline. Back to Madison again. Just keeping it on the move. Over the top from Madison. Solanke takes it down. Flag stays down, but it's gone up now. Offside. Also, we're all live on Twitch as well tonight. If you didn't know, we're also on Twitch. So if you haven't done so, go follow us over there as well. We're branching out our horizons, trying to add a couple of maybe Instagram, maybe TikTok in the future to our live streaming. So do follow us on all those platforms so we can do. You need to be 1,000 followers on TikTok to go live, and we would love to do that for our subscribers and to grow our audience. It'd be great if you could help us to do that. If you're following us and subscribed on YouTube, go and follow us on TikTok as well. If you would, that would be greatly appreciated. On YouTube, we're on the road to 25,000, which we're not too far away from. Just over 30 minutes to go in the North London derby. Here comes Sterling. Lifts the ball in. Bobbling. Brought down by Trossard. Still alive as it comes back to Sterling again. Charged down by Spence. Trossard again. Brings it down. Miss kicks it. Wanted a penalty. He's not going to get one. And it's going to be a free kick to Spurs on the edge of the box. I mean, I don't know why he's complaining of a penalty there, because I mean, that's never a penalty. I mean, it's actually really poor defending from Spurs. They actually allow him to take the shot. In the end, it doesn't end up being a shot. But Trossard feels that he was connected with by Kulishevsky. But I see absolutely nothing in that. And he just takes an air shot. Completely gets none of the ball. And he lets himself down. He catches himself in the box there. Well, Arsenal readying a substitute on the sidelines here with Gabriel Martinelli in the wake, but we'll see him enter the fray very shortly. As the ball swung out to the right hand side. Timber brought down nicely, finds Odegaard. Space for the runners as Havertz keeps it on the right flank. Sterling through the middle. Here is Havertz arriving into the box, lifts one across, and well headed by Porro. He had to make it, as Trossard and Rice were lurking at the back post, and a handball goes against Trossard, which gets Spurs the free kick and allows Arsenal to make the substitution. So a substitution incoming then. Raheem Sterling is going to make way. And it will be Gabriel Martinelli who will be coming on. So a straight swap there for Arsenal. Attacker for attacker. Some fresh legs on that attack to maybe try and push for that third Arsenal goal. They're into added time in all of those early games, and it looks like they're all closing to some interesting wins and clean sheet wins for all of those three teams that are leading, but we'll give you the full-time scores once they come into us from those early kickoffs, and we'll round those up before we leave you as well tonight after our stream concludes here. Rice. Timber. Nice ball down the flank here for Martinelli with his first involvement. And into... Oh, Havertz there couldn't get on the end of it. Well covered over by Kinski. At the moment it just feels like Arsenal have got the ascendancy, have got the comfort of the game where they feel like every time they come forward they might test the Arsenal or the Spurs keeper as he's under pressure again there, Kinski, but the ball across by Gray wasn't great, but Kinski almost playing himself into trouble there as he gets it away this time, but a couple of high pressured moments on the Spurs keeper, and it's kind of disrupted Spurs in possession. Here is Kinski again, swings it out to the right, and Porro absolutely hoofs it forward. Johnson on the charge against Lewis Skelly. Johnson tried to nick the ball, but Gabriel alert to that and swings it out to Trossard, who goes down, and Arsenal get a free kick. And just see this again. Archie Gray, the ball back to him, not particularly great, and it's fabulously dealt with by Kinski. Flicks it up, pushes it down with his hand, and then flicks it with the back of his right boot out to Archie Gray again. That's some confidence to do something like that in such a high pressured moment, but credit to him. He pulled it off, did Anton Kinski there. Cracking bit of skill from the goalkeeper, but if it goes wrong it's an absolute howler, but if it goes right it's a joy to watch as Raya goes long with this one, but Havertz with a flick. Thumped away by Porro this time. Brought down by Solanke, who's had really little all night other than the own goal that he scored to give Arsenal the equaliser, but in attacking sense here comes Rice in behind, trying to cut it across. Gray comes across to block it, behind for the Arsenal corner. Rice looked to be a massive threat against United at the weekend and had a couple of really good chances kind of stopped by the United keeper in B and Deer at the weekend, who had an absolute cracker of a game. But again, Rice breaking from that inside channel on the left side between the centre-back and the full-back of Spurs, and he's breaking into the box when Arsenal are in transition, when they're moving the ball around him, and he just strides forward, and rarely there is ever anybody that tracks him back into the box, and he just has that space to exploit. He's doing it time and time again. He did it against Man United at the weekend. He's doing it against Spurs here in the second half. So he will deliver the corner, will Rice, but it's cleared away at the front post by Porro. And Arsenal have a bit of a counter-attack to be aware of here, but David Raya comes crashing out of his goal and thumps it away. It's great anticipation by the keeper, because if he didn't come for that, it would have been a 3-on-1 that Arsenal had to deal with. And the keeper, smart in his anticipation and smelling the danger, deals with it comfortably. At 2-1, there's always this threat of a Spurs equaliser. That might still keep Arsenal very honest at this moment. At 2-1, it is a lead, they are ahead, but all it takes is one moment. Spurs to get back into it. As Raya goes long to no one here, and Spurs intercept to Brennan Johnson. Now Porro. Especially the way Spurs are in games, they're never dead, they're never kind of down and out. That's a chance by Madison. Toe poked right towards Ryan. Not much pace on it really in terms of a threat. But again, it was better build-up play by Spurs in and around the edge of the box. Just not getting that finishing touch on it at the moment. Oh, Raya. Oh, good pressure by Solanke, but Arsenal look as calm as anything there as Saliba over the top. Havertz tried to flick it on, but it doesn't go the desired direction. And the Spurs clearance comes all the way back to Lewis Skelly, who brings it down to Trossard now. Into Rice. Arsenal, again, comfortable at popping it around. As it comes down the right to Timber. Right, Odegaard. Deeper with the ball now. Back to Partey. It just feels like, with a quarter of this game to go, you know, the way the momentum, the way that the game is going, it would feel like an Arsenal goal is on the horizon. But again, as you say, with this derby, and as we talked about, this derby is never done. You know, Arsenal may have the control of the game at 2-1, but there's never a moment, I don't think there will be a moment between now and the end of the game where Spurs will think, yeah, we're out of this. At 2-1, they'll say, you know, we're well in this, we're well in a battle, it takes one moment. And that's what Arsenal need to be wary of. Yes, they've had control of the game. Yes, they've had a lot of chances in the second half. And yes, they're looking really bright, really energetic, and really threatening against Spurs for a third goal. But they haven't got it at this moment in time. And Spurs will grow in confidence because of that. Because they'll think, well, Arsenal are having a lot of chances and they're not converting them at the moment. All it takes is one for us, so we keep ourselves honest in our defending, and you never know, we might nick one. But here come Arsenal again with Odegaard down the right. He's looking for options. He's not got a runner along the side of him at the moment, and he comes in field to Partey. Now it comes out wide to Timber. Back to Odegaard. He's got the overlap, but goes backwards to Saliba. Quarter of the game to go. Arsenal 2, Spurs 1. In terms of the possession, there has been a swing in the way of Spurs come the second half. Arsenal had over 60% of the ball in the first half, but less than 50 in the second. So Spurs having the better of the possession so far in the second half, but Arsenal with slightly more joy in the final third, with their chances. More shots than they had in the first half in this second already. And here they come into the box. Martinelli could have passed it, didn't end up doing so, and will only get a corner out of Jed Spence. Really direct play right up the middle. Martinelli just breaks free into space, and he had a chance to take a shot there or even pass it. And as he takes the extra touch, it just takes him to the byline, and he's going nowhere and has to just rescue it for a corner. That was fabulous play by Arsenal. Right up the middle of the Spurs defence, and it's really nicely worked by Gabriel Martinelli, and he's won Arsenal a corner on this right hand side. And this corner will be Arsenal's 9th of the game, if I'm not wrong. Odegaard will deliver. Acrobatically kicked away there by Lucas Bergvall, and then a bit of a push on Son. And that will give Spurs a bit of respite and a bit of a opportunity to get forward here. Spence going to break forward. A bit of a nick there by Havertz, but Spence swinging the ball out to the right, but too much on that one to find Brennan Johnson, and it will bobble out for a Arsenal throw on the far side. Those final scores, those are the final scores from those early kickoffs. Now Aston Villa have beaten Everton in David Moyes' homecoming at Goodison Park, so Villa winning by a goal to nil. Palace 2-0 winners away at Ruud van Nistelrooy's Leicester, and a 3-0 victory for Newcastle at home to Wolves. Throw in here for Pedro Porro and Spurs on the right hand side for Spurs. Get another one there as it comes off Trossard. With less than 20 minutes to go, considering where Arsenal ended the first half and with the momentum they had, Spurs will be relatively contented that it is still 2-1 and they haven't gone further behind, but will be a bit disappointed they haven't been able to take more of a grip in the second half and maybe be a bit more threatening. There's time for that to change though. Here's Maddison. Down the right comes Kulishevsky. Into Porro, who made a little break forward, and Johnson back across. It was a good threatening delivery, but not the right personnel in there to get on the end of it. As Havertz tried to chase down a long clearance. But Spurs back in possession. Here is Johnson down the right side. Johnson got a bit telegraphed that pass straight at Miles Lewis-Skelly, who wins it back for Arsenal. Gabriel into Partey in the middle. Does well to play out of a tight gap. To Timber. And back to Saliba. Well, Arsenal will believe in their defensive qualities as Partey almost got intercepted there for being a bit too laboured on the ball, and he's rushed himself now and he's given it away. Here is Dominic Solanke. Well charged down and Lewis-Skelly to clear it away. And now Arsenal want to conjure up a counter themselves. Odegaard through to Declan Rice. Space here for Rice. Rice steps in and strikes straight at Kinski. I think the keeper, all he had to do was get in the way of it. He didn't really make any movements to try and save it. Just had to block it, really, the keeper. Still alive. Here with Martinelli. Back to Odegaard. Not eyeing up the shot. Will do this time. And the shot straight at the Spurs keeper. Just shows you this little moment that Spurs had. It's just opened the game up again. Kulishevsky up the other end. It comes now for Spurs. Maddison. Out to the left it comes to Son. Bodies in the box for Spurs. Son across. Kulishevsky not given the time to shoot, but we'll get it back to Heung-min Son. Bergvall. Spence. Because Bergvall. More than enough time for another twist in this North London derby, but the through ball by Maddison is going nowhere. It looks like Mikel Arteta is eyeing up another change in a moment. Kieran Tierney is the one that might be coming on, and remember, in the news in the last few days, being reported that Celtic are in talks to get Kieran Tierney back to the Scottish capital, to the Scottish champions, and who knows whether that could happen in this window or not. Kieran Tierney back up to Scotland. At the moment, he's going to be needed for the Gunners here, as Mikel Arteta is going to make that change momentarily. And with just over 15 minutes to go, Arsenal still lead by 2-1. But is there another twist? Is there something else coming here? Oh, Kinski giving it to Spence. He's under a lot of pressure. Did well to try and spin it away, but Arsenal have bodies in here. Havertz got back to Odegaard, charged down. It was Martinelli, actually, apologies. Will come out for an Arsenal throw, but again, Spurs get a bit dangerous in around their own box, and the ball to Spence was just an awful decision because Spence was surrounded by 3 Arsenal players. He did his very best to get out of the situation, but he's played himself into trouble, and Spurs lucky to not be kind of penalised for that kind of wasteful mistake, as Arsenal will make this change now, and it is the man whose goal would win the game if it stays as the way it is, as Leandro Trossard is going to make way, and Kieran Tierney will be coming on in his place. A fabulous goal by Trossard earlier in the game in the first half, and Kieran Tierney on for him with 15 to go. Timber nicks it back down the right. The cut back is neither here nor there. Brought back to Gabriel, who was never going to find the target from that type of situation. Goal kick. We have an absolute cracker midweek next week, because the Champions League is back. Bit early, never usually back in January, but the Champions League will end with its league phase in this month. Next midweek is Matchday 7, and we have a cracker midweek to come for you next week. And we'll have information of those fixtures for you at the weekend, so we'll let you know what's happening next midweek. But we do have Champions League action. Spurs are going to ready a change. Looks like the man who's returning from injury, Richarlison, will be the one that will come on for Spurs. The extra attacking force, an extra attacking threat for those latter stages, because Spurs have got nothing to lose at the moment. They are behind and kind of have to go for it late. Otherwise, they will lose this game. And they are going to make a change, and it will be their goal scorer, Heung-min Son, and their captain, who's going to make way. And Richarlison will be coming on in his place in that Spurs attack. And he's getting some jeers from the home crowd is Son as he leaves the field there. He'll not really care about that, as he's got his goal tonight. Porro sends it down the right side for Solanke to chase, which puts a bit of pressure on Gabriel to kind of clear it out for the Spurs throw. This game is still in the balance. Here's Bergvall. Doesn't want to break into the box, gives it back to Porro. And feeds it down the right for Bergvall, but overhits it. Goal kick. It's not a great ball by Porro, but again, Bergvall just has space to drive into the box, and he decides not to. He decides to kind of turn back to Porro, which kind of stifles the Spurs attack and doesn't give them opportunities to kind of threaten, and it just allows Arsenal just to reset, settle back into their defensive shape. Free kick there to Tottenham. Dragashin, the one challenged. Free kick taken short down the left side. Here's Richarlison. And a faded on. Beautiful ball in behind for Spence. Spence in the box, goes down. Wanting a penalty. He's not going to get a penalty. Goal kick. Well, there's two Arsenal players down in their own box, but that's not related to this. Is Spence here? Yeah, that's really good defending by William Saliba. There's nothing in that for a penalty. Kind of just loses his balance there, Spence, as he was kind of well marshalled by William Saliba. It's strong, it's aggressive, but it's very good defending by the Arsenal centre-back, and nothing more. Certainly won't be a penalty. Gotta say, it was a lovely ball by Richarlison in behind. Took a deeper roll and just fed it through for Spence on the overlap. Fabulous ball, beautifully weighted. Spence could make the most of it in the end. Alright, 10 minutes or so to go of normal time. Game still in the balance. Kinski made a good ball forward. Looked a bit kind of iffy to start off with, but it actually worked out for Kinski. Spurs had the bodies up the field to get on the end of it. Nice touch by Bergvall. Lovely ball for Kulusevski to take on the stride, but well blocked and well stopped by Gabriel, who celebrates his bit of defending. Well appreciated by the Arsenal fans, who cheer in response. Just really good defending at times from Arsenal tonight. You know, the goal they conceded came from a second phase of a corner, which they didn't defend really well. Maybe a bit of a deflection that helped Spurs. But other than that, I'd have to say Spurs have lacked any real threat against Arsenal, especially in the second half. I mean, Arsenal have just taken command of the game, and Spurs have struggled to get the ball into the final third, and even when they do get it in there, it's maybe on a one-off basis or not on a consistent basis have they got in and around the Arsenal box. And when the momentum is not with you, when you're not getting and keeping the opponent under pressure, you're just going to struggle yourself, and that's what Spurs have kind of come accustomed to in this second half. Arsenal know they haven't really had to throw everything at it. They've certainly had a go in the second half. Of course they have to try and find that third, and at times it looked inevitable that a third was coming, but as the game has just trodden on, maybe the Arsenal have just taken a more sensible approach and thought, we'll just command this game, we'll manage it out, and we'll defend when we need to defend, and we're not going to force a third goal to risk giving away an equaliser. And that's really smart from Arsenal's point of view. Although here's Porro whipping it across, well defended again in there by Thomas Partey, who dropped in. But it was better from Porro. Not many times we've seen Pedro Porro whipping the ball in, testing the Arsenal defence, but he did on that occasion. Here's Maddison at the byline. He will cross it. It will be fizzed over the top of Raya, who claims it fabulously there under pressure, but he got a right hand to it, and that's fabulous goalkeeping by David Raya. Well, fizz ball by Maddison. It just looked like I was going to evade Raya there and kind of find the head of Solanke, and Raya got a strong right hand just to shield it away from the head of Solanke, and then tried to claim it, and a bit of a foul by Richarlison. That's what I mean about Arsenal and how they've managed the game. You know, those moments when Spurs think they have a chance, Arsenal just settle it down, and their experience in these tight games, those close games, just allow them to manage the match to the end. But here they come with a chance to break with Odegaard. Here is Kieran Tierney. He will head it across. It actually turns into a cross, and Odegaard's strike is put wide. Just as Kieran Tierney had the strike, it actually turned into a cross rather than a shot, and I find Odegaard in the middle, and his strike sent wide. But it's good work by Tierney, good play by Arsenal. And that was ever so close to being a third goal, and it would have been game over at that point. But still 2-1. Richarlison fizzes it across Solanke, but Gabriel got there first, and will be in a Spurs corner. Gabriel claiming that it came off Solanke last, but the referee doesn't agree. And Solanke just makes the run across Gabriel. A good delivery by Richarlison, low and hard into the box, and Gabriel with a good bit of defending to put it behind for the corner, which Maddison will take. 5 minutes of normal time to go as Bergvall and Lewis Skelly got a grappling of each other there. And Bergvall's gone to ground, so the referee has something to sort out here. We'll see it again. Yeah, I mean, they both pull each other. There's nothing in that. Sometimes I think these training sessions in midweek for these teams are mainly just acting classes at times, because some of the fouls, some of the challenges, some of the kind of extravagant ways that these players try and con the referee into getting a free kick is just bizarre. I mean, especially in the era where there's over 100 cameras around the stadium, you've got to clearly see that you're not being fouled. And it's just pathetic, really, at times. And Bergvall and Lewis Skelly, there's just nothing in it. It will be a Spurs corner, though. And those two still going at it in and around the box here. The referee has more to deal with. And now it's gone a bit over the head because Lewis Skelly's going to be leaving the field for a substitution. And he's going to get a yellow for not leaving the field quickly enough. But he was being pushed off by the Spurs players there. That's what you love in a derby. A bit of needle. And Miles Lewis Skelly geeing up the crowd as he walks around the perimeter of the Emirates pitch. He is Arsenal through and through, is Miles Lewis Skelly. He's going to be joined by Declan Rice, who's also going to leave the field. So a double substitution for Arsenal and like-for-like switches. Marino for Rice in the midfield and Zinchenko for Lewis Skelly at left back. Spurs corner then. We'll eventually get this corner taken. Right footed by Madison. Headed away by Marino. And now Arsenal want a counter and they've got space and bodies here. Ball in behind. Here is Martinelli on the run. He's got bodies in the middle. Martinelli feeds it off for Zinchenko, cuts it back. Well blocked and cleared by Spurs. And Lucas Bergvall was there. I mean, you don't mind a bit of this geeing up the crowd kind of business in a derby, but you see it, the Arsenal players, they do it a lot. They do it a lot. When they gee up the crowd, they kind of gesture to the crowd, to cheer, to kind of... I mean, shouldn't that be instinctive? Just an observation, not a dig at Arsenal fans, but just an observation. Shouldn't that be instinctive? Anyway, moving on. Arsenal take that throw in. Here's Saliba trying to thump it forward, but straight forward for Antonin Kinski to just gather there. The time is running out for Spurs to get something. They're going to get a free kick here with Richarlison kind of bundled over by Timber. As I said, less than 2 minutes of normal time for Spurs to find an equaliser. They're not going to find one with that type of hold-up play from Richarlison. Nicely won back by Timber. Takes it himself away from Bergvall here. Nice bit of skill. Here's Odegaard on the right. Bodies lining up on the edge of the box for Arsenal. Comes back to Partey. Out wide again. And this right to Timber. Now Odegaard. Rolls it into Martinelli. Nice give and go. And Odegaard can't keep it in. Goal kick. And this would be a big 3 points for Arsenal, knowing that Liverpool dropped points last night against Nottingham Forest, and it could be a big 2 points difference in the title race, albeit Liverpool would still have a 4-point lead and that game in hand. But Arsenal need to try and cut the gap to at every opportunity they have, and up to this point they really haven't been able to cut the gap. Every weekend that Liverpool have failed to win, Arsenal have joined them. And that's where Arsenal have kind of been held at in second place and in a bit of limbo at the moment. But a big win in the derby and a couple of good results could get them back in the mix if Liverpool do continue on that little stumble they've had in the last few weeks. But a spirited performance for Liverpool last night. Just unlucky not to beat Nottingham Forest, who were well drilled defensively. But that's a title race for you. There'll be twists and turns right to the end. As both Liverpool and Arsenal fans will know, at the hands of Manchester City, they've lost titles quite closely over the last number of years. 5 added minutes then. Been a couple of late goals in the Premier League this midweek that changed results. 2 late goals from Brentford to rescue a draw last night. A late equaliser from Chelsea to rescue a draw against Bournemouth. Could there be another late equaliser for a London side to rescue a point? But at the moment it's Arsenal that have the throw in down the right hand side. Arsenal cried, trying to carry their team over the line. And what, as I said, would be a huge 3 points for the Gunners. Here's Odegaard, cuts it back to Timber. Again, well, challenged, and Tottenham have to get it away, and they will get a free kick here, as Solanke's just been taken down off the ball. Richarlison tried to steal a few yards there, but the referee wasn't allowing. It was a yellow card given out to, I think it might have been Gabriel there that got the yellow card for the free kick. Yeah, it was Gabriel with a yellow card, so he's in the book. Richarlison tries to play it on for Spence, who's got the neck on the ball past Saliba. Spence seen out wide again. Back to Richarlison. Still time as he swings it out to the far side. Lovely ball by Richarlison. Porro brings it down in the edge of the box. Onto his left. Swings it to the back post. Solanke with the acrobatic one. Well wide. That would have been a fantastic moment for Solanke if he'd bicycle kicked that one in, but it wasn't a great execution, and Ange Postecoglou not particularly happy with that. In the end, goal kick. As I said, it will be a fourth defeat in the last 5 Premier League matches for Spurs if they were to lose here. And it would be quite devastating for Spurs in recent, because they've only had one Premier League win in total. If they were to lose this tonight, they would have one Premier League win in 9. One win, 2 draws, and 6 defeats. In the last 9, that would total to 5 points out of the last 27 available to them, which is quite incredible, really. And not incredible in a good way, of course. 90 seconds to go, but a minute and a half of the 5 added. Arsenal look to just be holding on here at the late stage, and not holding on as if they've been under the cosh, but holding on and managing the game, just keeping Spurs at bay and at arm's length. Lovely play by Dragusin, brought down by Porro on the edge of the box, trying to find a little edge. Here is Kulusevski out wide to Porro. Porro with a cut back across. Oh, it hit the outside of the post. Goodness me. I don't think he might have actually wanted to do that, Porro. Don't know whether he wanted. Yeah, he was trying to sneak it in. Raya was alert, but that was a cheeky one by Pedro Porro. And from his reaction, he definitely meant to cross. He definitely meant to hit the shot. But things like that are not going to win Spurs games. And with less than a minute to go now, looks like Spurs might be staring down a 4th defeat in 5 in the Premier League, and a place where they will be very embarrassed to be in 13th. Raya, long ball forward. Seconds remain this North London derby. Spurs are going to do it. They got to do it now. They have maybe just one chance remaining. Kinski thumps it long. Bit of a slight deflection. Dragusin nicely to nick it. Kulusevski now. 5 minutes are up, but Spurs in the final third. Kulusevski cuts it back. Bergval rolls it out for Porro to deliver. Headed away by Gabriel. Fabulous defending again, as he's done it all night. But will Spurs get one last chance? Referee keeps it moving. Richarlison down the left. He will whip one in. Solanke with a flick on, but the wrong direction. Kulusevski on the edge, trying to roll it in behind, but Arsenal will keep it closed and slam the door shut. A North London derby win for Mikel Arteta's Arsenal. After 2 defeats here at the Emirates in a row, it is a much needed victory for the Gunners to reignite their title race hopes and close the gap to league leaders Liverpool to 4 points in the title race. It's a 4th defeat in 5 for Spurs, who are in a dismal run of form in the league. They were coming off 2 cup victories, but back to league action and back to similar form in the league. Arsenal will feel the energy, will feel the love from their crowd tonight, who had to help them over the line at times. But a management, a control that was the key watchword for Arsenal in that second half. Trossard's lovely strike before half-time is in the end the winning goal in the derby. And another cracking North London derby that ends, as it has done very recently with Arsenal, in an Arsenal victory. Final score in the North London derby at the Emirates. It's finished Arsenal 2, Tottenham 1. And there we are. That's the North London derby wrapped up after another night of 4 Premier League games that we brought you. And they've all ended in victories tonight after nearly all of our games last night ended in draws. Aston Villa beat Everton by a goal to nil as David Moyes made his return to Goodison, but a losing return against the Claret and Blue of Aston Villa. Crystal Palace got a big win on the road away at Leicester as their dismal form continues for the Foxes in the bottom 3. They had the chance to escape the bottom 3 tonight with a victory, but it wasn't to be for Ruud van Nistelrooy's side, and Palace pulled themselves even further away from that bottom 3 with a win. Well, Newcastle, they're in great form and they jump up into the top 4. Newcastle United on a 9-game winning streak in all competitions before the night, and they make it now 10 wins in a row coming in after that one, and they're into the top 4 for Newcastle United. And Arsenal jump back up into 2nd, just 4 points off the league leaders. But Liverpool have a game in hand as well at the top. So Arsenal with still a lot of work to do, but they have cut the gap by 2 points tonight with this North London derby victory. For Spurs, 13th, and they might have to look over their shoulder because they're just, at this moment in time, 8 points off the relegation zone, and they are just a point ahead of 15th place Manchester United. 14th could be where Spurs see themselves after 21 games if United pick up a victory at home against Southampton tomorrow night. It is looking really tough for Tottenham. They may be in a cup semi-final, but then in the league, they're looking as bad as anything at the moment, Spurs under Ange Postecoglou. A quick recap of the Premier League table before we leave you tonight, because we haven't had a look at it for a while, and we just want to recap where everybody is and how it looks after almost Matchday 21 almost coming to an end. 2 more games to bring you tomorrow night as Ipswich take on Brighton at 7:30 at Portman Road, and of course Manchester United hosting Southampton. So the top 10 in the Premier League looks like this. Liverpool lead the way by 4 points now on Arsenal, but have that game in hand, which is the Goodison derby, the Merseyside derby at Goodison in February. Arsenal in 2nd on 43 points, 4 wins out of the last 5 Premier League games. And next up, Aston Villa, as you can see on the right hand side there. Nottingham Forest are in 3rd, a cracking season for Forest at the moment on 41 points after 21 games. Newcastle just 3 points back on a 5-game, as you can see there, won all of the last 5 in 38 points. Chelsea just outside the top 4 on 37 points. City on 35 in 6th, and Aston Villa with a big win tonight on 35 as well. And the top 10 made up by Bournemouth on 34, Fulham on 30, and Brentford on 28 points. Into the bottom half then, and Brighton make up 11th. They're just outside the top half on 28 points. West Ham on 26, Spurs now on 24 points. As I said, just picked up 5 points from the last 27 available, and 11 Premier League defeats for Spurs, which is, if you look at it, the most of any side outside of the bottom three in the Premier League table. Only the bottom three have lost more games this season than Tottenham. Crystal Palace in 14th after a big victory tonight, and 4 games unbeaten now for Oliver Glasner's team. Starting to get into the groove of the season are Palace. Manchester United on 20 games. They play tomorrow night and can jump up to possibly as high as 12th tomorrow with a victory for Ruben Amorim's team after that 3-game losing streak, that draw against Liverpool most recently. Everton, 3-game losing streak for them, and David Moyes lost his first game in charge in his second spell tonight, and they're teetering above the relegation zone. Ipswich just below them. If Ipswich win against Brighton tomorrow, they can take themselves a bit away and up to 16th if they win tomorrow. And the bottom three, as you were coming into tonight's game, Wolves and Leicester both losing once again. 5 defeats in a row for Leicester City, the worst form in the league. Even Southampton have a better record than that because they've drawn in their last 5. And a win tomorrow would close the gap on those above them for Southampton, but they are in a very tough spot at the moment. That is it from us tonight here as the North London derby will see Arsenal conquer again, and North London remains red at least until they meet again later this season. Right, that is all we've got time for tonight, as Manchester United face Southampton tomorrow in our final game of our midweek bonanza in the Premier League. Then a doubleheader on Sunday for you as we head to Goodison Park as Everton take on Spurs. 2 sides in very bad form at the moment and both desperate for victories. We'll see how that pans out on Sunday. And at 4:30 on Sunday after that, Ipswich take on Manchester City, a Man City side who have maybe had an uptick in form, but dropping points from a winning position on Tuesday night sees them still teetering outside the top 4, and Ipswich just above the relegation zone, and they play tomorrow night. We'll see how they do against Brighton. That's it from us tonight. Great to have you with us. And Arsenal make North London red once again against Spurs, who have now lost 4 of their last 5 Premier League games. Night night.